I'm gonna say this. What makes a great double boss fight is this is the reason why I want to watch this video is because it's very prevalent. Because I just beat Dark Souls 1, and there's some bosses in there that I really, really think double boss fights that stand out in a bad way. Actually, all of them that are in the game stand out in a bad way. I just want to hear what, because I'm curious. I've always found that double boss fights in a game are just feces. Like 99% of the times there's a double boss fight, it's usually just ends up being super frustrating and incredibly annoying. And when it does work out, it's like I forget that it's a double boss fight. I just accept, oh, yeah, it's just a boss. That's so rare. The only times that I feel like that works is in Hollow Knight. That's the only game I've played where I think a double boss fight's actually been like, hey, this feels like a boss fight, not actually just like some abomination of two men who are not even synced up together who just decide to attack randomly and have no like what's the word chemistry together. They just happen to be in the same room. Like that's what it feels like with especially from FromSoft. Of course, Hollow Knight. He's gonna put Hollow Knight there.
What's better than 0 bosses? 1 boss. What's better than 1 boss? 2 bosses. Games love to throw 2 bosses at you at once. If you do it right, a double
Oh
boss
my god, right there, man. This is the boss that I hate with a passion because they don't necessarily work. Don't these bosses don't necessarily like have problems necessarily because technically it's obviously possible, but a lot of the times it does not feel possible because of this. Not the fat guy, but the other guy, the Dragon Slayer. Oh my god, the Dragon Slayer is so frustrating. He, I think the problem with Dragon Slayer in this boss fight is he can just magically like run full speed towards you while you're fighting the other guy. So you have to hyper focus on him. But if you hyper focus on him, he just like you just get smashed by the stupid little big fat guy. It's just such a nightmare. Cuphead with 2 frogs feel well incorporated. Oh, that's a good. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, 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 yeah.
fight can be an easy way to ramp up the challenge, reuse game assets, and build up some pre-fight hype all at once. But you can't just jam 2 bosses together and expect it all to work.
What game
Double
is
bosses
this?
have to be crafted so they fit together. Otherwise, you're gonna get a chaotic mess. Do it right though, and you've got an instant classic fight that'll stick with a player after the game is over.
Oh my god, I forgot the twins from Terraria, by the way. That's a definitely a double boss fight. I just realized. And to be honest, they work really well. Well, not always, but 99% of the times they work well. It works well. The times it doesn't work well is usually because of just where you're placed as a character. Like, I don't know. I mean, no, actually, no. Oh, I stand correct. No, it doesn't. The twins in Terraria doesn't always work because sometimes they'll just like you'll be like moving and they decide one of them decides to split off or be slow, and then they just randomly just despawn and it ruins the fight because once one despawns then the other one despawns. Usually, you fight the green one first and the red one. Well, yeah, duh. But it's still a 2 boss fight, right? Like a double boss fight.
Today, let's figure out how to choreograph the dance that is the double boss fight. You might have your own double wandering around, and not the fun kind, the identity theft kind. To defeat that boss, party up with today's sponsor, Aura. You have a ton of
What
calls
is
to
even
fix it,
Aura? Wait.
$1 billion, data breaches, unauthorized purchases. Aura is the one-stop shop that keeps track of all of that inside an easy-to-use, untouched credit freezing, your computer's safe, or others of mine that I have.
I'm suspicious. I'm suspicious that there's this many features of Aura, but I don't know. Skip this shit? Well, obviously I'm gonna skip it, bro. I usually don't watch, things, promotions.
File for Design Doc viewers. Get a handle on your data security by signing up to a free Thanks, Aura. If one thing good, then 2 thing more good. And that's not wrong. Not entirely anyway. 2 things sometimes is more good. Double bosses can be extra memorable. They can be hype factories, built from an unexpected team up that you get to play your way through. or they can be a place to bring characters back, building a new challenge from a combination.
Oh my god, yeah. No, FromSoft games, I feel, just looking at this makes me angry. Like, I feel FromSoft games are the number one, they make the most games where the double boss fights are always the worst. They stand out as the worst in almost every single case. Not always, but a lot of times they do. Especially Sekiro. Like, looking at this, it's like, dude, this boss is significantly harder than this boss. Like, this is a boss by itself. I remember, because I fought him, I remember fighting this guy by himself. This is just a random soldier that happens to be in there, and frankly, it's not that hard, obviously. I imagine it's not that hard. I don't know if I fought this or ever. But I think the thing that makes it frustrating is like, dude, if this is a boss by itself, why the hell do we add more stuff to it when there was already a version of it that exists in the game that's by itself? You're just making it harder for no reason, and it's obvious that they did not intend for that to be the feature. Like, I just don't get it.
Of old elements. Double bosses can create interplay in ways that a single boss would have a tough time doing. They can make a player
Oh,
choose their path on the fly,
Spider-Man.
where how the fight plays out is a direct result of the decisions made. Double bosses can be more than just two bosses fighting at the same time, but along with the opportunities for a unique fight, pairs of bosses are prone to unique problems to avoid that depend on what type of fight a game is aiming to make. Let's start real basic. What's the cheapest, easiest, fastest way you can think of to make a double boss? We've got this one standing right here. What if two? Just fight two copies of the same boss at once. That seems easy.
I don't think I've ever seen
Hollow
that.
Knight clones a couple bosses very
Oh,
well,
never mind.
like the Mantis Lords. After fighting your way through a tribe of deadly Mantis warriors, you get the challenge to their leader, Zzz, a trio of Mantis sisters.
Yeah, people love this boss fight so much. They meat right it. And I get why. But to be honest, I don't think it's the best boss fight in the game. But I do think it's great. I do love it. But like, dude, the meat riding kind of goes crazy, bro. I have not seen this much meat riding in anything besides like the people who meat ride Kendrick Lamar. Like, yeah, it's a controversial sentence, kind of, but whatever.
Yes, this is still a double boss. The fight
Why are
is
you asking what's my favorite holiday in the middle of a video where I'm talking about? Okay, whatever. I don't know. It has nothing to do with anything. But I would say Christmas. I don't know. I don't care from 99% of holidays are irrelevant to me or not really that exciting.
broken up into two phases. The first has you fight the middle sister, who teleports around the arena and swipes at you with her lance, drops on you from above, or tosses a boomerang at you from the wall. The timing's a little tricky, but it's a pretty straightforward fight. Just dodge and hit. Once she yields and retreats, the two remaining sisters step in for a 2-on-1 matchup. Hope you learned that first phase well, because now we're doubling up on everything. Both sisters have the same moveset, but the fight now has a different rhythm, and you have to rethink your positioning.
Yeah, it's
and
pretty fun.
constantly
It's
be on your
fast-paced in
toes.
a good way,
You'll
by
deal
the
with
way.
two vertical drops, one after the other. They'll pincer you with both the dash attack and the boomerang projectile. One might dash while the other drops soon after. They each might dash in quick succession, or the second one might delay a bit to throw you off. They're the same bosses, but the changing patterns make the fight completely different. And if you want even more of a challenge, there's an optional rematch in the DLC where you can fight all three sisters at once. Good luck. Hollow Knight's Godmaster DLC.
Okay, I'm gonna be honest. This boss fight right here, I've hated this boss fight so much. I suck at it. But I have to admit it's pretty fair. This Hollow Knight does something interesting. They actually like somehow managed to make, well, most of the multi-boss fights actually balanced besides the I don't even remember, the Watcher Knights, I think they're called. Like those are kind of Wait, does this video list double bosses are actually good or is there more than that? I have no idea. I'd imagine they probably go over bad ones.
has an even better double boss. The Nailmaster brothers, Oro and Mato. Like the Mantis Lords, the first phase is a one-on-one fight with just Oro that lets you get a handle on his basic moveset.
Oh, I see what they're doing. Okay, this actually makes sense. You know why these boss fights are so good in Hollow Knight? Because they don't just spend the whole boss fight with two of them at once. They actually implement it in a second phase. It's like learning, and they do it in a good way where it's like, hey, I learned the moveset of this boss. Now we're gonna have two of them or multiple of them fighting you with the same moveset. So basically, you already mastered the moveset. Now it's just a matter of your timing with everything going on. That's why it works so well because not a lot of the games that, again, From Software, I'm looking at you. You know, you tend to make games that just throw two bosses together instantly, and it's ridiculous. If bosses have faces, then it's good. Yeah, I agree.
The second phase brings in Mato, where again, the changing pattern over a repeated moveset makes the fight work.
Okay,
Unlike the Mantis
this
Lords,
guy's playing like me, bro. At this boss fight, I suck at
each
it.
brother
Like,
has a unique
I get hit all the
signature
time.
move, a dashing slash, and a cyclone spin. Careful positioning is even more important here, as it influences their attack patterns. If you're on one side, they'll alternate between attacking and backing off as the other
Why? Oh
follows.
wait, by the way, if you have any knowledge of Hollow Knight, why is he running? I think that's the hero's charm. Ooh, is it? I think that's.
Up. If you're caught in between,
Or is
they'll
it the one that gives the poop? I don't know.
coordinate
Look,
their slashes.
either
to
way, it's
pincer you.
bad.
The fight is much more demanding than the Mantis Lords, as you search for brief openings to attack without leaving yourself open for the counter. The two-phase structure is a smart way to get players up to speed on a challenging fight, while the way each pair coordinates their attacks prevent unwinnable situations, and make for a new memorable fight from Ryu.
Are you able to revisit previous bosses in the game? What game? Hollow Knight? Yeah, you can. At any point. I think that's another thing that needs to be talked about, dude. If a game has a lot of bosses in them, I think you should be able to revisit them whenever you want. Dude, Sekiro, bro, like that hits the spot because that game is like the only reason why I love it is because of the boss fights mainly. Don't get me wrong, the world's fine, but like, dude, every once in a while you just gotta open up the game and revisit your favorite boss fights and leave. That's all you need to do. And the fact you can at any point in the game, like any save like totem area, bro, you could just do that. I think that's brilliant. Like that's great. It just makes replayability that much easier because frankly, a lot of games I would not want to replay the entire game just to get to the final boss. That would be frustrating. Like sometimes I don't want to replay the entire game, you know?
Use components. Of course,
Bro, what
there's
is
only
this
so
game?
much you can do by cloning a boss. It's not all that creative. Oromato even tried to get around it by being ever so slightly different, because a full-on clone would introduce some problems. Two copies of the exact same thing don't necessarily work together all that well. At worst, a clone double boss can feel like really
Oh.
obvious filler. The original Batman Arkham Asylum famously dropped the ball with its bosses. Over half of them involved this roided up Titan henchman.
Oh my god, yes. So I just beat this game like recently, like a month ago. I 100% in this game. And my god, the boss fights are low-key kind of trash in this game. Dude, but like basically what they would do is they just throw like a really overpowered like beast at you, and then he would just like try to ram you and like do basic attacks they're easy to avoid, and then they just throw in 10,000 basic henchmen in there, and then suddenly it's just a really frustrating thing. Like this guy right here will be the main like guy, and then he's not that hard by himself, but then oh, let's add a second one, and then let's throw in 20 henchmen. Oh my god, the amount of times I rage so hard because it's like what? And then the worst part of the game for me was when they threw in two of these guys, I think. No, it was one of these guys maybe. And then they threw in like 20 henchmen, and then they threw in more and more and more until you just beat the big guy. Oh my god, so frustrating. Oh my god. Because the amount of deaths you have. Because, dude, when you have 20 henchmen in close, in like a tight space with a big fat guy who's really overpowered in the same room, it's ridiculous. Like, I hate that so much.
Maybe with a different.
Was he the hardest boss in the game? I'd say the hardest boss in the game. Oh, yeah, this. Ooh, wait, this is also hard. Oh, I mean, I don't consider them bosses. I don't consider these guys bosses. These are more just like enemies because they throw them around too much. I'd say the hardest boss was probably, ooh, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I have no idea, to be honest. Probably like Poison Ivy, but like, I don't know.
Outfit, or maybe it's Bane. Either
No.
way, the
Oh,
fights
yeah.
are the same,
Yeah.
from the first one to the fifth. Both the third boss and the semi-final boss throw two of them at you. It's not
Yeah.
much harder to deal with two at once though. Maybe you pick your opportunities a little more carefully, but it's mostly the same. And considering there's like a half dozen of these guys, you're pretty.
You know what I just realized? I never. Okay. If you know about this game, you should know, like, if you've played Arkham Asylum or Arkham City or anything, you should know that you could, like, stun the big guys, the Titan guys. I just realized in Arkham Asylum you can actually stun them. I just now. So this whole time, bro, I've been throwing batarangs that do like 1 damage per hit, and then waiting for them to ram to a wall and then attacking them. When in reality, you could just stun them, and that's crazy because I thought only Arkham City allowed that.
Good at getting rid of these Titan
Whatever.
henchmen by now. Clone bosses are not something you can drop in as a placeholder and expect to get much fun for free. Okay, so maybe cloning a boss isn't what you're looking for. What's the next easiest thing to do? What if we just reuse 2 different bosses? That'll fix it, right? Well, it'll fix some things. Recycling bosses into a 2-on-1 fight tends to work better with simpler bosses with recognizable patterns. They can fit in classic beat-em-ups like Streets of Rage 4.
Wait, what boss in Cuphead does that? I forgot. I know there's the frog one, but there's another one, right? I feel like there's another boss fight where it's like... Oh, I'm thinking of the... Okay, never mind. It doesn't really apply. It kind of does. I think? Not really.
Or pretty well. Multiple bosses with distinct behaviors that mix and match can make a fight much harder and much more interesting. Streets of Rage 4 has a few stages where you're fighting cops. The boss at the end of stage 2 is the Commissioner, a jacked up version of Commissioner Gordon with some heavy overhead
Wait,
punches.
Commissioner Gordon? What is this game? I've never heard of this game.
Super armor on most moves, and a dash and grab that's tough to dodge. In stage 4, you deal with Special Forces officer Estelle, who has a ton of flippy kicks to avoid, and sometimes calls in artillery support. Each boss
What?
is challenging on their own,
That
but
game
you'll
actually
get to
looks
know
kinda
their
fun.
patterns and take care of them before too long. Stage 7 ups the stakes. On top of this moving train, Estelle returns and has figured out how to smuggle some hand grenades on board. She's calling in backup again.
What bosses in each game you feel like they were actually the final boss? To me, it's the dice from Cuphead or something else. Oh, the main games I guess that's a good question, actually. For Elden Ring, the final boss for me was Malenia, undoubtedly. That was, like, the hardest boss of the game. It felt like it was the final challenge. Then, Sekiro, I would definitely agree with the whole, what's his name? The final boss for that, which was the final boss, would be, in my opinion, what is it called? Ishin the Sword Saint? Yep, that's obvious. Then you got, Dark Souls 1? Dark Souls 1, I don't know. I don't really know. It's hard to say with Dark Souls 1 because all the bosses were either really difficult or too easy. It really was dependent on just how good you were at the, like, not even good, just how, like, OP your character was. So I can't really say for that game. Cuphead, yeah, no, by the way, yeah, the Dice, King Dice, whatever his name is, yeah, that guy was definitely the hardest boss. Or it would be between that or the robot, but the robot, yeah. The Radiance from Hollow Knight, absolutely, yeah. Absolutely. The ultimate, or I think it was called Absolute Radiance. Yeah, beating that was so hard, bro. That took me like I spent like a week, every single day for that week. I just practiced that boss, and I only beat it like 7 times. And then I went to do the final Pantheon of Hollow Knight because I was just like, dude, I'm sick of practicing the same boss. And I beat it like, like twice in a row at that point. So I was just like, you know what? I'm probably not going to beat it, but I'm going to try it anyways. And then I beat it. And I was like, oh my god, I beat the final Pantheon. That was crazy. That's my biggest accomplishment of all of gaming, beating that Pantheon. Like, dude, that's like the hardest thing I've ever done. Because it's every single boss back to back to back to back to back in the entire game. And yes, a lot of the bosses are easy, but there's some brutal bosses. Especially at the end. And then plus you have, obviously, Absolute Radiance, which is just not even a thing to... Oh, dude, that's one of the hardest bosses I've ever taken on. My hands were sweating, like, profusely. Anyways, what other... and then Elden Ring DLC too. Yeah, dude, Radahn. Oh my god, Radahn was crazy. That is, honestly, Radahn is, like, probably the... And I'd say the best final bosses I've ever come across are, like, as final bosses is like, hey, this is the final test. Radahn is definitely in that list. I don't like him as a fight necessarily, but I do think he's like an ultimate test for a final boss. It makes sense. And then, of course, Ishin the Sword Saint. That's forever my favorite boss of all time. That will forever be my favorite boss.
Again, watch out for the Oh god, it's the Commissioner. Now, it'd be a little overwhelming if both bosses played identically to their original versions. The Commissioner is toned down a little. No super armor this time, and fewer different
I have no
kinds
idea
of
what this game
moves.
is, though.
Estelle acts a little more defensively.
Why is
preferring
Commissioner
to keep her
Gordon
distance while the
in-
Commissioner tries to bash you into
I don't
submission.
believe it's Commissioner Gordon's in here, by the way. I
Even
don't-
with the toned down movesets, paying attention to the attack patterns of both at once makes the fight exponentially tougher. That moveset change is crucial. The moves of two separate pre-established bosses often don't combine very well, and you're likely going to have to combine them
This is
some.
what I hated about Elden Ring, by the way. This. Like, okay, let me show you. See this little idiot, like, soldier, bro? The misbegotten warrior? That's not even a boss. That's just, like, an enemy that they just throw into a random room. That's what I hated. Like, a lot of these, like, dungeon areas with bosses at the end, or, you know, areas with, like, mini-bosses, right? They just felt so lazy because a lot of the times it was just like, oh, this is just a random enemy that we jacked up slightly. Or, oh, this is just a boss that you've seen 10,000 times already. The amount of time, there was like this certain boss, oh, I forgot what they're called, but it looked like an ants kind of. Dude, it kept getting reused all the time. Like, it was reused, like, and I didn't even beat like, I never actually explored every single location, obviously. But I remember seeing it at least 6 times, which is ridiculous. One boss in 6 different areas is diabolical. I'm not saying this game is horrible for that, but it's also like, dude, it's kind of unnecessary. Like, it just felt like it was just throwing things in places just because they needed something. How many bosses are in Elden Ring that actually feel like bosses? Like, isn't there 118 bosses? I have no idea. I'd say really there's probably like 30, 40 bosses that actually feel like bosses. Again, I haven't beat like every single boss in the game. I did most of the major ones. Actually, I did all the major ones because I've 100% in the game and I got all the achievements. So I've done the ones that they felt was necessary, but there's probably a couple bosses I probably missed because the game is just so massive and there's so much things to do. And yes, I just said massive. Why is my brain cooked? Every time I say massive, low taper fade! Like, dude, get out of my mind. It's ridiculous, but yeah, I don't know, whatever.
Bosses often don't combine very well, and you're likely going to have to combine them somehow. If you try to sidestep the issue by doing something you think is clever, that might look like the Boom Boom and Pom Pom fight in Super Mario 3D Land. There are only 3 distinct bosses in the game: Bowser, Boom Boom, and Pom Pom. Each individual one is reused a lot over the game's 16 worlds, with some
Dude, this
arena
game actually
design
might
tweaks
be
to help keep the
fun.
repeated fights from being exactly the same. Sometimes, though, they try to
3D
spice things
Mario?
up by
That
making
looks
you fight
fun.
2 of them at once in the same room. Kinda. Unless you're looking closely. The bosses themselves are really simple. Boom Boom spins at you with his head exposed, which you jump on because Mario, and he ricochets around for a bit.
That is literally the definition of him in literally Super Mario Wii U edition, bro. And also the other one. Dude, every Mario I've played has those checkpoint, like those Super Mario Bros. I've played. They've always have those checkpoint castles, and every time they reuse the same little boss fight, and it's always super easy. It's ridiculous, and it's kind of stupid. What's SM64? Super Smash 64? I don't know.
Repeat 3 times, also because Mario. Pom Pom is pretty similar, but she throws a boomerang at you and moves a little differently in her invulnerable
I'm
shell
not gonna lie, that
phase.
kind of looks hard.
Very
No,
simple.
it doesn't.
Combine them though, and it gets a little trickier. Or it would, but despite them being in the same arena, the 2 of them are still separated. The room is split between a low and a high floor.
Why would they
and
do
each
that?
boss
That's
stays at only one
not-
level throughout the fight. The 2 fights feel independent from one another, even when they're in the same room.
Yeah, that's so weird. Why would you do that? Because think about it, like, it's like literally stupid because the bottom guy is literally irrelevant. Like, you literally could just go and play the game without even attacking him until you beat the first boss on the top. Like, or the opposite too. Stupid.
Which undercuts a lot of opportunities the design of the encounter could have for interacting and overlapping attack patterns to add to the challenge or just make the strategies a little less basic. Despite being added together, the fight's just as simple as before. Other boss combos can be way too chaotic. In the Mega Man X Legacy Collection, they added an extra mode called the X Challenge. Here, you fight pairs of pre-existing Maverick bosses from different Mega Man X games with a selected arsenal of special weapons. You want to fight Chill Penguin and Frost Walrus at the same time for some reason? Now you can. Most Mega Man boss fights are designed in isolation,
never played
with
this
the
game.
attack patterns, weaknesses, AI behaviors, and sometimes the arena itself designed.
Honestly, this game's kind of giving me Terraria vibes, which sounds stupid because it probably was made before Terraria, so I shouldn't say that. That's like saying, hey, this game is in a city, so it's GTA. Like, no, it's not how that works. I will admit. Oh,
With
Super
just
Mario 64, by the way. I've never played Super Mario 64.
that one boss in mind. The X challenge lets you not take any of that into consideration. It just throws both bosses at you at once and calls it a day. Attacks are a nightmare to dodge, as there's no rhythm to most of the possible fights. The screen immediately becomes a cluttered mess. Even the background color palette makes some of the bosses hard to see.
Oh my god, I just remembered. Oh my god. What are they called? Calamity. Terraria Calamity. The Exomex, I think they're called. Yeah. That is the definition of a boss fight, multi-boss fight with multiple bosses at once. Done. I actually can't say that's done well, because it is done pretty decently, because it's obviously playable, and it's not like but a lot of times it just feels like there's 10,000 projectiles happening at once, and most of the fight is you just flying around up, down, or going to the side as fast as you can. And is that really considered good gameplay when you basically just have to fly or move as fast as you can to the side? To avoid any, like, 10,000 projectiles? I don't think that is. Not gonna lie, if you remember, Terraria Calamity X-Max was the worst definition of duo bosses. I wouldn't say the worst. I think that FromSoft has worse. But, like, I think of Sekiro mainly. That is worse, but, you know, it's still pretty bad. Like, it's not great because it's literally just like you have to just run away from the fights to avoid everything, which is kind of bad.
When you combine two existing bosses, they're usually either very simple in design or altered to make the fight more digestible
What game
and
is
playable.
this?
Without any customization, or at least careful selection of the bosses chosen, a double boss fight can feel like a bad ROM hack or a mod done wrong. Double bosses can do more for a game than just be a fun fight. In the right circumstances, having a couple of old bosses combine forces can become a hype factory, and long-running series have lots of material to work with. Yakuza is filled to the brim with beloved criminals, and near the top of the list is Majima. Yakuza 4 establishes more of his past with his brother-in-arms, Sajima. Over that,
I've met people who've like completely loved like Meat Ride Yakuza series, whatever it's called. Should I actually like buy it? I don't even know how expensive it is, but should I like try it out? Because people love this game. Oh, the obvious answer is probably yes, but um, imagine if they colluded Terraria, that'd be ironic. I mean, maybe they would. I don't know what games they. I hope they talk about Elden Ring or Dark Souls. Let's more because that's something that I think needs to be talked about because they both have bad double boss fights.
game, you watch these two tragically fall out and slowly reunite through crime drama shenanigans and shirtless fights. By the end
Shirtless
of the
fights.
character arcs, these two
What?
become a strong dynamic duo. In Yakuza Like a Dragon, the series goes through a soft reboot with the gameplay and cast. Most of the past characters in the series were set aside for new characters. Sometimes, though, the game dusts off some fan favorites. Like Majima. He's back, and you're fighting him. And halfway through the fight, oh my god, it's Sajima. Look at what they're doing. It doesn't hurt either that the fight's very good. The Majima fight goes from a fun callback
Oh, what is
to a
this
double
game,
fun,
bro? That
double
looks so
callback
weird.
fight, and works as a great hype moment for longtime fans.
Okay, yeah, no, this game is ridiculous. I'm sorry. What? That's
Okay,
over the top.
so there are plenty of advantages to reusing bosses in a double boss fight, but there's something limiting about it. It's
You know, this reminds me, the Mario gameplay, by the way, reminds me of when I was a young kid and I fought Bowser in Super Mario Bros. I don't even know, Wii Edition or something. I have no idea which one it was. I think it was Wii. I could pull up the thing. Super Mario Bros. Wii. Oh, yeah, it's right here. Um, yeah. Dude, Wii, by the way, the Wii is classic, dude. There's so many great games on there. Like, I still play Wii. Mario Kart Wii, oh my god, that's like one of the greatest games of all time. I still, whenever I have family over or someone comes over, I'll try to push them to play in the game against me because I have a really good habit of knocking people off the course and then still winning somehow. Yes, I'm a bully when I play Mario Kart Wii. But anyways, this game I remember I played it in versus Bowser for the first time, bro. That was like the hardest challenge of all time. Bowser was so hard, and I was like, it took like 2 days to beat him. And then I remember I came back to the game like a year or two ago, and I just beat him like in like 2 attempts. And I was like, oh wow, I've grown as like person. Like, wow, I actually can destroy this. It's easy. It's playing this game you realize, wow, this game's actually not even that hard at all. To be fair, when I played Mario Wii, bro, it was my first time holding a Wii controller. I was so confused. Like how to, I didn't even know what the buttons did. Like I didn't know how to sprint for a while. Anyways, can you show off your Wii? I don't have the Wii anymore. It's gone. I have a Wii U though, but yeah, whatever. What the? Okay, I pressed the
It'd
button.
be more work, but what if we start designing double boss fights from the ground up? Two bosses provide a challenge unique to most games, even when combat is focused on dealing with groups. Having two bosses to deal with simultaneously creates a lot of intimidating yet fun and nuanced problems to handle on the fly, especially when the bosses are different in ways that complement each other. In Hades, when you reach the end of the third area, you're pitted against Theseus, the former hero king of Athens, and Asterius, the bull of Minos. These two are carefully designed to be a contrasting duo both in character
I have
and
never
gameplay.
heard of this game, by the
Theseus
way.
is a pompous, punchable jerk whose demeanor miraculously never changes, no matter how many times you beat him. And Asterius is a stoic, honorable warrior who's pretty chill. The pair's stark contrast extends to how each of them fight.
Looks like Kai from Kung Fu Panda. Bro, I watched Kung Fu Panda. I have no idea who Kai is, bro. Not gonna lie.
Asterius is an aggressive close-range brawler with heavy melee combos, leaping attacks, and a tracking bull charge that you will need to avoid by taking cover by a pillar. His attacks get heavier when his health hits the halfway mark. Theseus is a more defensive fighter that prefers to attack from a distance with his spear. He has a shield out at all times that you have to flank to do damage. When he's at half health, things get way more chaotic.
Yeah, no,
Theseus
it
summons
basically sounds like the twins from Troya. Like
the
that.
aid of one of the 8 Olympian gods at random, who give him a new
Kai's the yak with long horns. I didn't even know there's a yak in Kung Fu Panda. I guess I didn't watch it. I know I watched it, oh my god, 5 years ago. Yeah, that explains everything. Yeah, I remember watching it in 2020. Oh, okay, that explains so much. It's a bowl. Yeah, I still don't know who that is, so I guess I have to rewatch them. I don't really watch movies like that, and most movies I forget in like less than a year. Like I forget the whole plot. Besides like a couple movies, and those movies will include obviously Star Wars, all the Star Wars movies. Well, they were the good ones, and then I'm trying to think. Oh, Jurassic Park 1, obviously, and then Dark Knight Rises. I will always remember that movie. Every other movie though, I can't. There's not any other movie I can think off the top of my head where I can recall the plot. Like, oh yeah, that's exactly what happened. I don't watch movies. I don't know.
attack. Each attack is slightly different based on the god, but they generally fill the arena with a pattern of AoE circles to avoid. And when the two are together, they can team up for a big shockwave or a fastball special. Theseus and the Minotaur play off of each other extremely well. They have distinct roles that are easy to understand and provide choices to make on the fly when fighting them. Depending on your build, you will need to decide whether to focus down one or try to take care of them at the same time. No matter your choice, you can't sleep on either of these two. You're
Yeah, I mean,
always
this
on
is
high
literally
alert so you
definition
don't
of
get
twins from
blindsided by the
Troya.
other, and each of their second phases are a force to be reckoned with. It's an intimidating fight that can easily end a run if you're not careful, or if your build just isn't quite right. Theseus and Asterius make a great team that provides a real challenge no matter how many times you face them. Lots of double bosses have specific roles for each member of the pair, like offense and defense, or healing and attacking. Though sometimes leaning into those roles too hard creates an overly simple fight. In No More Heroes 2, you fight New Destroy Man. This guy was literally split in two in the first game. And both parts are back as cyborgs
Bro, how
fight.
many games has this guy played, by the way? He's played so many games. It's crazy. To be fair, I've played a lot of games. I've just never heard of any of these games, basically. It's crazy.
You 2-on-1. One is a close range brawler, while the other snipes you from as far away as possible. No problem there, until you take down the closer one first. Once the fight is just against the ranged cyborg, the pacing slows to a crawl. The sniper continues to keep his distance, flying around the arena and landing in places you can just barely reach. You have to wait around until the AI decides to jump to the ground and try to revive his partner, where you can jump in and get a few free attacks. He'll run away, fly around for a bit, maybe take another pot shot at you, and then come back to try and revive again. That's it. If you run up to him too quickly, he'll likely just fly away. If you try to chase him down, he'll keep flying away faster than you can keep up, and probably get an easier
Are
chance
these
to revive
games?
his
I have
buddy
no
in the
idea.
process. You just don't have the tools at your disposal to take him out at range for any real damage. So the fight slows down to a chip damage contest that saps the energy out of what had been a fun fight. The weird design turns it into a slog. If you get it right, double bosses where both characters have unique roles can create a nuanced fight with more layers than you might pull off with a single boss. There's an interesting dynamic that
Ooh,
pops up in a double
Cuphead.
boss fight. Since there's two things to deal with, what happens when you take one of them out?
I'm
Double
trying to
pairs the
remember.
boss
What
fight.
does this boss fight? How does it open? Is this how it opens? Honestly, does this like to me this fight, this part of the fight, by the way, I remember this fight part of the fight. Is good because basically it's one. It just feels like one little challenge. It doesn't feel like two bosses fighting at once. Like, oh, you just have to walk into like towards the wind, but the wind pushes you back, and you have this bouncing down. Like, oh, just just be careful where you're moving. It doesn't feel like two enemies fighting at once overpoweredly.
Since there's two things to deal with, what happens when you take one of them out? Different choices make the fight play out differently. Does nothing happen? One goes down and the other just acts as they were? Well, if you got through fighting two things at once, how hard is taking out the remaining half going to be? If nothing happens, the fight might all of a sudden become very easy, and that might be what you want. But you can do way more complex things too. Slower paced strategic games like turn-based RPGs can really benefit from the extra strategy options that a double boss can unlock. In Bug Fables, there are a couple of encounters against a rival team. A vain diva moth called, Mothiva, and her wasp bodyguard,
what?
Zasp. Zasp is
I-
attack-oriented,
this game
with
is
multi-hit moves
crazy.
and the ability to boost his damage for 2 turns. Mothiva has tons of attack and support abilities. She can hit your whole party
Mothiva,
at
bro?
once, raise her partner's defense, use the
They're
game's
pulling
turn
random
relay mechanic
games.
to give Zasp.
Okay, that's a dumb thing though, because literally it's always going to be random because we don't know the game. Just because we don't know the games, like what I'm trying to say is, oh my god, I'm so bad with words. Basically, what I'm trying to say is like, it just feels random. Well, it is random no matter what because we don't know what's going to be picked next. I mean, I don't know. It's just interesting. He's picking a bunch of games that like, I've never heard of and are not relevant. I don't know if they're not relevant. That's the thing. I don't want to say that because some of them might be. I'm not like into. I don't know. I don't know. I don't really know much about.
Zasp an extra attack, and she can even revive him back to low health. You'd think that would make taking her out first a no-brainer, but if you do that, Zasp gets a permanent attack boost, which can be devastating in a game where every hit point counts. Even targeting
Oh, it's
Mothiva
like
at all gives her
Pokemon.
bodyguard a bonus. Attacking either one ends up creating complications
looks
that
hot.
you have to
Okay,
account
bro.
for. The wider variety of options that a second enemy character opens up makes the fight with these two much more interesting than either of them would be alone. Since most every double boss involves fighting two things, they usually will present the player with a choice.
I hear Dark
What
Souls
should
music.
they prioritize attacking first? Depending on the roles the bosses have, it might be obvious. If one of the two is a healer, taking that one out first will probably shorten up the fight. If a long distance boss is too hard to catch, you'd probably want to
Wait, that's not Dark Souls music. I'm stupid. That's Terraria music. I think that's from Calamity. Mothorania over Mothron? Mothrana over Mothron is crazy, bro. Like, what? Why are we talking? That's so weird.
deal with the closer half first. but some pairings can make for more interesting
Ah,
choices.
here it is.
Look at the Ornstein and Smough fight in the first Dark Souls. Smough is a big, slow berserker with a wide, heavy hammer attack. Ornstein is faster and more precise with his spear. They're a classic Dark Souls boss, where you're managing the positioning of the two, minding their attacks, and waiting for solid openings to strike. It's a great fight, but what makes it stand out is that you're given an interesting choice in how.
I think the problem with this fight, really, like I said earlier, is Dragon Slayer, because Smaug is really not that hard. If we're being honest, Smaug is not that big of a deal because he's super slow, he's clumsy, his dodge, he's so easy to dodge. But dude, the amount of times, bro, that the Dragon Slayer, bro, would just run across the arena at the speed of light and hit me in angles that you just wouldn't think would be possible is so infuriating. Also, it has projectiles that spam you, so you have to take them out first. Is he gonna glaze the boss fight? I don't know. I think a lot of people. I don't know. I heard a lot of people don't like this fight, or think it's really hard. I don't know what people actually think about it though. Is like
to approach
good
it.
or not.
Depending on which one of the two you take out first, the remaining boss gets a powered up second phase.
Yep.
The choice you make is the trick. Fighting a more powerful Smough is the easier of the two to
It
deal
is.
with, but Ornstein is more difficult to take out in the initial phase, as he's smaller and faster, and has Smough's wider attacks covering him. Do you want to take the more difficult fight head on, or wait until the battlefield clears out a bit and save the challenging part for
I don't
later?
think I've ever. Wait, what? Wait, he gets bigger? No way. Dragon Slayer in the second phase gets bigger? Oh yeah, hell no. I'm glad I never dealt with that before. Oh my god.
Ornstein and Smough's synergy and second phase choice make for a challenging fight where there's no clear correct answer to how to approach it, and the same double boss fight can unfold.
People agreed? People agreed with what? Let me see this. I don't know what the consensus on. Ornstein and Smaug is overrated, poorly designed boss battle. Let me just, I guess I'll read this. My thoughts are simple. Ornstein and Smaug are difficult for the wrong wheels. Fail at the tire point of dual boss unless you're suicidal. The fight's the easiest method. Same one everyone else does. Yeah, okay, yeah, this is basically just saying these bosses are like two different bosses put in one room, and I totally agree. There's no synergy. That's the problem with this boss fight. It's like there's no chemistry. Just like every other, well, not every, but most boss fights, double boss fights in FromSoft games feel exactly like that, where they just put two random bosses in the same room and call it a day. I don't know. I'm not gonna read the whole thing. Of course, and then this guy's gonna be like, I completely disagree. One is fast and sticky. Okay. I don't know how. Yeah, no. Reading that just made me confused because sticky is not a word I would you ever use in a boss fight to describe it. So I don't know what this guy is trying to say. Um, whatever. What does sticky mean? I don't know. Whatever.
Fold in a bunch of different ways. Where Dark Souls presents the power-up idea as a choice for the player to make, Devil May Cry 3 uses the same idea as a punishment. Agni and
Wait,
Ruja
what?
are
You
a pair
could
of
use a
ogre-like
gun in
demons
this
standing
game?
in your way. Maybe you try to
Wait,
focus down-
this game might actually be good then. Bro, I've been, the longest time, I've been trying to, I really wanted to play a game where it's like Dark Souls, but you have a gun. Which, it sounds OP because it is.
the health of just one of them first. Classic mistake. The other one is now way stronger. Good luck. If you split the damage more evenly before taking one down, the second one shouldn't last too much longer. The game even tries to suggest that you operate that way. As you're learning the rhythm of their attacks and getting better at breaking their guard,
Dude, this looks like a
swapping
lightsaber
between the two
duel,
will feel
almost.
pretty natural. These two are a classic example of a double boss that forces you to carefully consider how you split your attention. Okay, let's take one more big step back.
You know what I really hate about double bosses in games is when, oh my god, the Four Kings from Dark Souls 1, that's the boss. Dude, that boss kind of sucks because basically it's like, it just randomly you'll just be like ganked up on by a bunch of other bosses of the same boss. Like it's basically the same boss but multiple of them, but they slowly like add more and more of the same boss into the arena the longer you go. So basically you have to focus on one and it has like these annoying attacks and then you have to, deal with like getting attacked by like four other beasts near the end of the game. Like you have four other of them attacking. And yes, they usually don't attack when you're like next to one and focused on one, but sometimes they do, and that was so infuriating. It just felt so frustrating. Cause like, dude, what am I supposed to do when there's a boss behind my back that just randomly swings? I have no clue about it because I'm super focused on one boss already. That's infuriating. How does bro fight without a head? I don't know. Don't know. There's headless. The headless. Wait, no, headless. Oh, headless from Sekiro. They fight. I don't think I've ever beat a headless in Sekiro, and I've done everything else in the game. Like, I'm kind of a loser for that. No, I'm just kidding.
Double bosses are a unique type of fight. If you're feeling even more creative, the double boss fight format can give you a lot of freedom to design a unique experience. Stereo Lovers in Sayonara Wild Hearts is not a traditional boss fight at all, but it uses the double theme to make something you haven't seen before. You're up against twins, and their opening song is a back and forth between two parallel worlds. On the beat, your track shifts from one world to another, and your positioning carries over between the two.
Oh,
You have to
that's
look
actually
ahead and
looks really
remember
great.
where you're supposed to stand, then time your movements with the music so you're in the right place during the shift. You're shifting your attention from one
Wow,
situation
that's
to another.
great. Oh
just
my
like in
god.
a more run-of-the-mill double boss
That
fight.
actually looks
But
really
in
fun.
the context of how Sayonara Wild Hearts plays, the double boss gets a different meaning to create one of the most memorable parts of the game. Since there's two
Subway
parts of a double
Surfer clears. God. Dude, Subway Surfers is overrated. Yeah, it was a classic when I played as a kid, yes. But nowadays, bro, like, dude, why would you ever play it? It's so bland. Like, dude, oh wow, try to get a high score, yippee! Like, I hate those games because, it's just like eventually it's just like you're doing the same thing over and over and over for what? Oh, but you can grind the game to unlock, free currency or whatever it is to unlock cosmetics. Boring. Like, dude, I don't want to play the same thing every single day for hours. Why did you delete your message?
boss, what's forcing you to even have both of them be in the same place? Near the end of Nier Automata's campaign, you'll ride an elevator up a tower to encounter this spherical robot named Koshi. Go fight. Partway through, the camera cuts away and your other character is flying up the side of the tower fighting a similar robot, Roshi, in a shmup style sequence.
Roshi, bro.
Partway through that, the camera cuts back to the elevator for another round with Koshi, then back to the shmup, then back to
This
the
actually
elevator.
looks pretty fun.
Back and forth you go, faster and faster, until you're both at the top of the tower. The two separate fights fuse together, and now you're fighting both at once.
Wow,
Even
that's...
at this point, you're still swapping characters periodically. The framing that Nier Automata uses throughout the fight does a ton to make it stand out. There's also a ton of story context tied in here that I'm not gonna spoil. You go do it. I don't think we talked enough about every double boss ever, so you're gonna have to tag team in for me down in the comments.
Ooh, I'm
Let's
gonna
talk
read the
about some more
comments then.
great double bosses, how their developers altered their gameplay to make them fit, and the unique setups and framing that made those fights so memorable. Maybe next video we'll talk about the elusive triple boss.
Ooh, triple boss. Have I ever fought one of the triple boss? I mean, yes, technically in Hollow Knight, but that's about it. I can't think of like any case where I fought a triple boss really. Yeah, no, not really. Huh. Bro, this guy's 111 videos about diving into game design. It's crazy. I did not know this guy. This guy's basically an analyst then. Okay, let's see what the comments have to say. I'm very curious. Mantis Lords, yep, the Twins of Terraria, Double Boss. Yep. Mantis Lords. Um uh I mean, a lot of these I don't even know. Wait, what? The final count of all Smash Ultimate? There's bosses in Smash? I didn't even know that was a thing. Twins, twins. More Smash Ultimate, dude. What the hell? I did not know this was a thing. A fun double boss that really exploits its theme. Oh my god, right, it's the Cuphead DLC. Oh, it's the boss where it's like if you look away from the one, then the one, so like basically there's a boss on both sides of the screen and they both like shoot projectiles. The one you look at doesn't, like those projectiles don't damage you, but the ones you're not looking at damage you. It's very fascinating because basically like, ideally you look the other way to dodge, like to, press the dash button to dash past the projectiles, but then you have to deal with the other projectiles that are now heading towards you. I'm not describing it well, but yeah. The demon and the angel. Yes, yes, yes. I forgot about that. Um, yeah, so a lot of people seem to be liking. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what. I don't really know. I'm not gonna read all these comments, but I like how everyone has like different like takes on this. Like it's like, oh wow, everyone has their own like unique boss that they found interesting. Don't forget the Tipsy Troop from Cuphead. Tipsy Troop. What? Tipsy Troop? Cuphead? Oh, oh, right. Bro, it's been a while since I've played Cuphead, I'm not gonna lie, so all this is like, oh yeah, I probably should replay Cuphead. If I was gonna, oh my god, no way, this guy has, no way, no way. I don't believe this.
Hey, welcome back to Cool Kids Art, and
Never mind, it's not, okay, Cool Kids Art is not what I was thinking. I thought it was, the guy with the Batman channel logo. He makes similar video. Bro, I used to watch this guy. Oh my gosh. So now look at my recommended. Oh, there it is. Cartooning Club How to Draw.
What's up, everyone, and
Okay, so he kind of ruined his channel, but because that's weird.
welcome to the club.
But no, basically he just like draw like a ton of different things, and I would basically like just draws like all the stuff from Clash Royale and Clash of Clans and Fortnite, and that's how I learned how to draw somewhat decently cartoon. Not really great at it, but I was decent at it. Well, at least the face, but I couldn't draw like bodies and stuff. But I mean, yeah, this guy was great. But I'm never gonna watch it again because I'm not interested in drawing anymore. I don't know. Show me your favorite video from him. I have no idea, bro. It's been oh my god, probably like 8 years or 7 years since I last watched him. Because that's just how it goes. Yeah, so, I mean, I think the main thing I really want to say is that double bosses can work, but when it feels like, well, the two main problems with double bosses in a lot of the cases is either A, the attacks overlap each other, so you get attacked while you're attacking one of the bosses, they attack you at the same time, which can be very annoying. Like where it's like, oh, I'm focused on this boss and now I'm being harassed from like an angle I can't see the other boss in. Like that's where it's annoying. And also when they're not like synergy and it just feels like two random bosses in one, that's when it's like those are the worst case scenarios. Otherwise, it usually is not that bad. I'd like to say the best double bosses are the ones you don't consider double bosses. And yeah, I mean that's really it. Like twins, I don't really consider that a double boss. Like I know it sounds stupid, but like I don't really think about it and go, "Oh, that's a double boss." Because when I think of a double boss, I think of it in a negative connotation. Now, other people might not agree with me on that, but that's what I think.